This is Dr. Justina Agnieszka-Chevalier. This is a continuation of prior part that describes when to take absolute vows of celibacy, because it is de facto state of world and expressed in superior sensation on perception of own goodness, derived in two ways. First way is the establishment that there is ideal partner and no other is physically, mentally, and psychologically therefore possible, and in non-harm, in pleasurable sacrifice, pursuit of own body, mind, and all that one is, to pursuit of solitary life in meditation and in realization, and also in personal work, contemplation, each, or in selfless work towards the universe and for the goal of non-selective survival, in education and in also work that poses a threat to own existence, but in non-selfish way, meaning no one will be harmed in acceptance from loss of life if that happens, based on that absolute celibacy vow, in non-conditioned, in time and manner way. It is not okay to make such when the other person hopes for a relationship, bases it on possible presence of another relationship, or self does it, or does it because there is pressure to oppose or to confirm, or as a consensus not being able to find the right partner. It needs to be done in freedom, in full state of decision of wanting the most that romantic relationship as equal in attractiveness option both, and choosing it instead of ecstasy and utmost happiness, sense of personal gratification, in sense of superior goodness as soul gratification, and pursuit of lifelong work or lifelong contemplative state, a life, and if death would happen, which is never the goal, enjoy the pursuit of such, to do so in preference of sacrifice for all others, including that person in front, sense of dignity and honor, or for deity, depending on religion. God, in, for instance, Buddhism, is not source of such sacrifice, and we, like Jesus in Buddhism, mimics simply what Buddha did. Buddha and Yosudara, in some relates, actually, have done that, meaning they both, after having a child, learned that they prefer to make personal sacrifice, having ideal relationship with one another, waived it and pursued selfless work or and contemplative state in Theravada tradition, that is derived from capacitation of others, or others being less worthy in rejection of a work of self and such services, and therefore self humiliates self and Buddha, and likewise dignified ones, providing work that saves lives while others prefer to die or live in harm. And that is the way of the model that applies to all. Second model is model derived from pain, meaning after realization of having superior in wanting children and in emotional and mental state relationship, there was absolute impediment morally to pursue such relationship. It was not possible, and it still is. It is a permanent state, and such was and is the case then for all of other relationships. And pain, intense pain where death was begged for, resulting in impossibility of assistance or in no assistance of others, resulted in breakthrough in which God was source of such magnitude of love towards self that it alleviated all of suffering, physical or mental one, and restituted faith and goodness in God, resulting in service towards others, in sense of personal goodness, and such pursuit of goodness from then on because of faith of God mimicking that love, which means a person makes sacrifice because of having, for instance, stigmata, torture, or other traumas, being rejected, in impossibility to remediate it as less loved, chooses path of contemplation, of teaching about God, and trying empirically to be a source of equal type of love, delegating to God, and uses and dedicates the body in faith to God, in not indifference but in faith that God will care for all of the needs of that body and also mind, because God was source and is source of a soul medicine for self as such, or dedicates life to service and work in a chosen, needed, yielded field, safest one, such as many nuns and monks in Catholic Church, as opposed to celibacy of a consisting also, apart from sexual celibacy, of vow of silence, and dedicating such to service for others and education per need, when it is again that it is not degrading. However, that degrading, it needs to be degrading to God, meaning one cannot rejoice in harm of others but remediate it and live to a superior judgment, not self, when it is that work is pursued, and when to pursue celibacy consisting in absolute celibacy in meditation. And that results in the identical, in fact, state of non-sexual responses, in no need for torture, ego shifting to appear as a man or the women, shaving or any sort of clothes which are chosen, if for instance one chooses Benedictine monastery, to mark belonging, nothing more, or for convenience, as a source of pride, because of being surrounded, by equals, and in progression towards, for instance, knowledge of structures is superior in such, and equals in a realization that is finite in many ways, but infinite in persons that may benefit of that empirical experience of God's love, that then one assumes as own capacity, discovering same property denominated as nature, and promotes to others. And so that is the difference, that source of such superiority in goodness, leading to a sexual perception, a faultless perception, in no need of harm or restraining or limiting contacts, in fact, is source of absolute vows, and from the consolation for others, it is available to all, but source of such was non-planned, accidental, or a result of confusion, intense, non-compatible almost with life, pain that was alleviated by realization of existence of God in non-punishment, but in a source of such realization that God exists, and that only that love can actually cure all and reestablish sense of self and life. And in that sacrificial pain, fortitude based, basically, a person has realization of own goodness, being a victim of such, or the God's as if child, and that goodness, that pain is not wished for all others, and work is to prevent such in education, enabling that which Buddhists denominate ordinariness, or amazing, tantric relationship, lasting, loving ones, and enabling possibility of sacrifice, such as it was done by some disciples of Jesus, and also teaching limitless in dignity, because to love self and the others, as Jesus said, means to love self too. If you love self as much as the others, so love the other as much as the others, self needs to be loved to love the others without distorting it. You're gonna love the other person as much as self means you are going to love self, and you're gonna love the other, because otherwise self expects love from others, and that can be selfish. And so that source of love is non-conditioned. That source of God's source of love because of chosen, wanted, and soul superior celibacy and dedication of own body in faith of God to God, knowing that God has power to alleviate all of own suffering while offering all of possible and existing ways in others and in form of others as well as own services, including that realization of goal, source of meditation and solitary life, and source of service of others. So that is the way of the cross. Those are two possible ways of celibate life. And next I am going to talk about discrepancies of philosophies, and in that book entitled Predatorship, or Predators Want to Love Not Kill Nature, what causes instinct to harm or kill in animal and human world, which I denominated itemization of life, and what causes inferior sexuality consisting only in remedial sexuality, and only in sexuality that is also devoid in a non-relationship with physical body, in non-pursuit of such relationships. And that is also therefore denominated by me the chapter on epidemiology. We need to realize that what the Dalai Lama said works both ways, which is Master Dalai Lama meant whatever there is in discrepancy, in knowledge, in science, in literature, between such and Buddhism and all therefore existing religions, it is source of a misinterpretation or a distorted context. And when such is corroborated between all of those sciences, it becomes clear that all of these together make sense in content. And when there is harm to at least one of the existing, there is failure of intellect and humanism at planning all actions and in responses, leading to pursuit of own perfection to provide of such. Cruelty is derived from doing such an itemization of life, such as cows, chickens, pigs, fish, bugs, bacteria, and viruses, itemization to non-relevant, as opposed to assuming that humanist goal derived from Buddhism and from Christianity and from also Taoism, expressed in immunology. If we fumigated high spectrum antibiotic all of bacteria, we become sick because we killed all, and killing in concept kills, and therefore that is faulty in all of the world approach, that itemization of life. And Jesus, when he said, whatever you did to the smallest of mine, you did to me, in that medical concept, what he expressed include all, even bacteria, humans, viruses, in when they do harm, pushing back, when to aiming at non-harming, when they actually do harm, analyzing what hurts them to motivate such, what they fear that motivates such, alleviate such suffering, and provide so that they can live alongside as commensal in animal world. And that applies to all members of the society, excluding none, and knowledge consists of such a realization. Otherwise we give Illuminati or enlightened ones wrong name, because Illuminatis would eat and consume pigs, cows, etc., then become confused, also such as in Roman culture, humans for animals, replicating the same model done to a mammal, fellow mammal, in other humans, and leaving then a source of joy, pain in another person, because that person inflicted to self-harm or inflicted harm to the others, which never ends and forms what is called instinct to harm and instinct to kill. It becomes the basis of the a circle, a vicious circle of life and death that is not accurate, and that leads to weakness and senselessness of intellectual activity, when we do not realize that the goal is compassion in realization of all existing beings, and in intellect, perfection in all of actions, and such striving to at expense of non derive limitless life in form, and in pleasure, expressed in pleasure and enjoyment and harmony of the universe, pertinent to all sciences, all humans and all creatures and individuals and all religions.